Hey everybody, and welcome to the first part of the interview with Ger Sasser. As a part of the Start Where You Are initiative, which you can find on swya.today, we want to take a look at local leaders in our area and find out what makes them tick, what put them on the path to success that they're on today, what are the challenges that help shape them, what are the victories that they reveled in, what are the things that they've learned from their experience. We want to be able to pull that out so we can better understand the leaders in our area, but also that we might collectively be able to benefit from those experiences. In today's interview, this is the first part of an interview with Ger Sasser. Ger is a native to our area and has lived here most of his life. He is a co-owner in a business called Crossfit Countdown on Carter Avenue, and he co-owns that with his wife, Cassandra Sasser, or Cass, as she is known to her friends and family. They focus on physical fitness, athletic performance, and right now he spends a large portion of his time with our high school boys and girls in the various different sports, teaching them things like strength conditioning and speed and agility drills, but also teaching them how to stay healthy, reduce the risk for injury, and to be able to have that mental toughness, which is so important to competitive sports. What makes Ger unique to most of us, and the reason I wanted to start the interview series with him, is that he spent a large portion of his young adolescent life as a competitive athlete. And not just as a competitive athlete, but a globally ranked competitive athlete in the sport of CrossFit. And so I thought it'd be great to kind of inspect and see what makes somebody like that tick. How does somebody from our area that is not really known for a lot of their competitive athletes, so we've had some few notable names from here, but what makes them tick, and how were they able to harness the advantages of living here into becoming somebody that could compete on a global stage? And I think that is something that all of us could benefit and learn from. So I hope that you enjoy this first part of the series as much as I did in making it. The first part of the interview with Ger Sasser. Ger Sasser, and how old are you?
30. I
Wow,
don't know.
you did turn the big 3-0 this year. Wow.
It was rough. People let me know.
Yeah. Well, as someone who had a milestone himself this year,
Yeah, right.
yeah,
I remember that. Okay.
yeah, yep. No need to talk about that milestone.
No, okay.
It's sad. That's true. It's
I'll hope to get there one day. It's okay.
yeah. That's my father used to say. It's better than the alternative.
Absolutely.
I suppose. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So as long as you keep adding up, and you are a husband and a father of one, soon to be two,
Soon to be 2.
in
3
just
weeks.
a few weeks.
Yeah.
How many?
3?
3
4?
weeks? 4 weeks?
February 13th.
February 13th.
The due date.
Wow. Yeah, just a little under a month because today's 15th of January.
Yeah, right on.
Wow. Awesome. You ready?
No.
Good.
Nope.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's the correct answer.
Moving out of the house, moving in with the in-laws at the same time.
That's true. That's right. You doing the house switch. You're like me. You like to do a lot of change at one time.
Jump in the deep end.
Yeah. When I married,
See if you can adapt.
when I married Brittany, I started my new job 1 week later.
Really?
So yeah.
Ooh, yeah. Lots
Yeah.
of change.
Lots of change. And then
really?
we moved into a house because we just got married. Yeah, that was kind of crazy.
Yeah, I bet. But she just thought that was always you, right?
Yeah, that was pretty much.
She didn't know the difference.
Yeah, pretty much. That's
funny.
And so what do you do in Ashland?
What do I do in Ashland?
Yeah.
I own a gym. It's affiliated with CrossFit. I attend church in Ashland. I strength and condition for Ashland school systems. And probably some other stuff I'm forgetting. Rent a couple houses,
Yeah, right.
Lots of different things.
Right, and hopefully soon to actually move and live in the Ashland area.
True. I'm about 40 minutes out right now. Soon to be like 48. But we're looking. Wife's found a couple things she likes, so shouldn't be too bad.
And so, your business. So you do own a business, and your business is CrossFit Countdown. It's on Carter. Is that what it's on?
It's on Carter.
Yeah. Okay. And how long have you guys done that? You and your wife?
I opened it in 2012,
Yeah.
and she jumped in 3 years after, roughly.
Yeah, that's an interesting story too. Maybe we'll talk about sometime.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Certainly, I do love her recounting it. Maybe
it's normal for me.
Yeah.
It's not interesting to me.
Yeah.
It's just life.
Yeah, that's true. Right. Those are the interesting bits, though. And so, are you reading anything today?
Am I reading anything?
Yeah. Any books or
of
following
course.
any podcasts or whatever?
I read every morning, every night. Usually at the local coffee shop in the morning. Make myself read the Bible first, just as a habit, it's become a habit, thankfully. So I don't really have to think about it. Then I'll read some kind of knowledge book. So like this year's like goals, like Atomic Habits is the first one I picked. Then I plan to dive into Darwin's Doubt after that, which is kind of like intelligent design. Does God exist or not? Is Darwin, it's just doubting Darwin's theory. And then at night I'll read fantasy books because I've had enough of the real world. And I'm done.
Right on.
So.
Right on. And what would you say? What's your passion?
Well, the first 3 or 4 years, not losing was the passion. So
talking about your CrossFit, your CrossFit career, okay?
Yeah, that's what got me out of the bed or in the bed at a certain time.
Yeah,
and that was very deliberate.
Yeah,
probably lost too many friends because of it, but
right,
here we are. So life goes on. I mean that was definitely the driving force of my life for a long time.
Sure.
Until I realized that it just wasn't going to happen.
Right.
And that was a hard switch after attempting that for 5 or 6 years, just to kind of mellow out and realize that it's just not going to happen,
Right.
That goal that you chase for that long can be kind of daunting, but I can vividly remember me and my wife being in a fight. We weren't husband and wife at this point. I think we were engaged at this point, but it was like I always went to bed at 9:30 on the dot, and it didn't matter what was going on or who was there or what. It was just like, all right, it's 9:30. Good night. And she grew up in church, and so she believed that not to go to bed angry with a significant other.
Yeah.
And which I do too, but
But it was 9:30.
But it was 9:30, and I was gonna love her when I woke up anyways.
Right.
Even if we're in a fight, I'm still gonna love you in the morning. Don't panic,
Right.
and we'll continue our conversation then. So it was lights out. She still doesn't know how I fell asleep.
Okay,
but I did.
Right on. That was someone we affectionately call Young Ger. So now maybe we'll pour more into that a little bit later. But so now you say that was kind of your early years, but today what's your driving force? What's your passion today? Since you switched modes, you say you had to kind of switch out of that ultimate competitor mode, I guess, perhaps, and then
yeah. Well, I had a kid, so that was nice, and there were a couple times in the morning where it was like, oh my gosh, man, I just want to it's just not worth the time investment. And then, you see your kid sleeping or whatever. And so I can understand now looking back on it, because I've heard so many people say family stuff before and it gets them out of bed, makes me go to work, blah, blah, blah. And so I can empathize with that now. I think that's a real thing. But also just trying to live a life where you can witness to God. And I got saved after my kid was born. Mm-hmm. She was probably a year and a half. So that was probably a year and a half ago. She's 3 now. But so now I just try to live in a way that, someone can look on me and hopefully find Christ in my life just from looking in. But that's a lot harder to do than what I'm just telling you right now. I'm sure not everybody does see that, but, it's a work in progress like everyone else.
Right on.
So
let's rewind the clock a little bit.
Okay.
To literal Young Ger.
We're going back to Young Ger.
Yeah, literal Young Ger. Literal Young Ger. So, before getting, or maybe I'm assuming, I'm assuming there's a time in your life where before you were bit by the kind of physical athlete competitor bug. I'm assuming in your younger days, or have you always been like a competitive athlete, or how would you describe yourself when you're younger?
As far as competition goes, I played sports growing up. My parents split when I was super young, and my dad got remarried. And like at the very beginning, I didn't really want to compete.
Mm-hmm.
It was like one of those weird things. And my stepmom was actually the first one to like get me on the baseball field without crying my guts out. Then I kind of realized that I liked it, and so for whatever reason, I liked competition. There were points in my life where I didn't feel like my teammates were as good as me. That kind of frustrated me a little.
Okay.
But and then there was a point in my life where I wasn't good enough either. That happened when I moved in with my dad. So I went from a school of I probably had 180 in my graduating class.
Right.
200 maybe. And so basically, if you wanted to play a sport, you just signed
right,
up.
you signed up, right? Yeah.
And you showed up. And
Right.
they're like,
It's
awesome. We'll take
small
you.
pond, all the fish are big.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. Even if you're terrible, it's
Right.
like your practice squad good. That you can play defense against the good kids.
Right.
And so then I moved in with my dad when I was in 8th grade.
Mm.
And I went from about 200 kids in my graduating class, and then all of a sudden I had like 1150, which is,
Wow.
yeah, it was a different experience for me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I moved in too late to join anything in 8th grade year. And then freshman year, they have, the freshman team or whatever.
Yeah.
And they had their own freshman building because they couldn't fit them all in the high school.
Wow.
So they had their own freshman building, and then you went to the high school in
Mhm.
sophomore year. And so the first thing I tried out for, which was a winter sport, was basketball. And I vividly remember walking in the gym, and they take 12 kids,
Right.
5 on the floor at a time, and thinking that like no big deal. I started down here, like I'm gonna make it. And then you look around, there's like 120 kids around you, and they're
Right.
all trying to make this 12-person squad. And I didn't make it.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert to anybody.
Didn't make it. So I was like conditioned at that point to think that I tried a couple other things, but I just didn't make it up there. I don't,
Mhm.
Always made it to the last day. My dad will tell you it's political at this point, but I don't believe him.
Almost to every parent,
Yeah.
I think,
Right, yeah, of
when their
course.
kid doesn't make a team
Absolutely.
or get the playing time they want, it's purely political.
Yeah, of course.
It's purely political.
Had to be.
Absolutely.
So I got kind of conditioned that way.
Hmm.
Then ended up moving back, and so then it was like my perspective had changed.
Right.
And so I hadn't played sports in like 3 or 4 years, from 8th grade to my junior year.
Mhm.
And then all of a sudden, I go to a different school with another, I think I had 180 in my graduate when I actually
Right.
graduated. And everyone's like, dude, why don't you play sports? I'm like, because I'm not good enough.
Right.
And they're like,
Right.
what do you mean? Of course you're good enough. But, I wasn't for the longest time. And then just wasn't practicing. Didn't want to embarrass myself.
You got out of your little pond.
Right.
You went to a big pond.
Yeah.
And then, like, when you come back to the little pond, not only, like, you're back in the little pond, and so I feel like this kind of seems familiar, but you've been, I mean, that's a literal definition of it. You've literally been transformed. You've literally been transformed because you're in that bigger pond. You've now changed because now
Right.
you've went out of this, probably your, I would say, just generically categorizing. Small pond, you're like, I'm the bomb. And you walk out there like,
yeah.
oh, I can take this no problem. And then you go to that bigger school and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm terrible. And then, but you come back and you still have that kind of stigma in your mind of saying, like, there's 180 kids, but you don't come back thinking, oh wait, like now I've done this, I'm come back, like I'm going to own this. You're like, nope, I'm a tiny fish. I'm a tiny fish.
Yep. Yeah. There was a dude named, his name was Josh Hawk. He made the team. And for whatever reason, he was the biggest freshman I've ever seen in my life. It was just like that moment where I was like, you can be 6'7" and a freshman. Okay. Okay, cool.
Right.
You can dunk as a freshman. Awesome. So it was just like, whew, where am I right now? But
What would you say are some, would you say that would you identify that as the most transformative thing of that period, or would you say something else? I mean, because you mentioned a lot of things that would certainly, I think, leave a lot of, if you want to call it marks, not for using a positive or negative connotation, but parents splitting up, parents remarrying, the switching of schools, the influence of your stepmother on there, like kind of getting you out into the baseball field. So obviously, like all these things are traumatic, certainly.
Yeah.
Not saying they can't have positive outcomes. Just like your relationship with your father, your stepmother, and vice versa, and then of course your expanded family and things that come through that. But what would you look back in there and say, this thing that happened to me or what have you? Is there something of that nature that you would say like that was definitely a defining moment for me?
I mean I think divorce will, divorce is the number one thing for any kid, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's just everyone can point to it. I was like, I don't even remember it, but it was still like, I mean, they tell you it's not for you, but right, every kid deep down is like, it was because of me,
right?
It doesn't matter what you say to your kid, and then like just growing up and like experiencing marriage and having a kid, and then like, and I know I'm assuming that their relationship was like mine and my wife's.
Sure.
And then like looking back and being like, how did you guys get from here to here?
Mm-hmm.
Like, how does that happen?
Yeah.
And it's like, it's just baffling to me. But that's definitely, and my sister will tell you the same thing, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And probably any kid that went through it will probably reference divorce as one of the biggest things in their life.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's
but also I'd say, like, not to put words in your mouth, but there's that thing which, as a parent, I think you're still in the superhero phase with your daughter, right? But there is that point in time of which, at one point in time, your kids realize, oh, wait a minute, they're just moron like me. They're just a moron like me.
He has no idea.
Right.
I didn't even do my math homework.
Right, exactly. Yes, he has no clue. I used to think he's so wise, and now he's so dumb. But at some point in time, you started to get into at least the strength and component of things, and beyond just like just baseball and sports.
Right.
But at what point did you start getting into what later became in your CrossFit kind of career?
I guess it was my senior year.
Yeah. Okay.
It was just like, I was competitive, but I didn't really do I didn't do anything. I didn't lift weights or anything. And then senior year, it was like, you're basically done with school.
Right.
And you only need one math class, an English class. Basically, you need 3 classes. You got 8 periods.
Right. You're pulling time. You're looking at parole. You're just pulling time.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
It's like, well, you got to take something. So I'm like, dude, what's the easiest sucker on this list? So weightlifting was on there.
Right.
And it was like with the football players,
Sure.
I was like, whatever, dude. It gets me a credit. I'll weightlift for an hour. And so I joined weightlifting, and that's kind of where it started. They actually had like a competition in the weightlifting class, and of course I'm with the football players.
Sure.
And it's like it was really good. It was actually set up a lot like CrossFit. They had you took your body weight on like a hex bar, and it was max distance around the track without sitting it down. And so they had like 10 different events. One was like max pull-ups, one was max bench press, one was like triple clean. There were some other cool things in there. And actually won at the end. On my scene, they were like the non-football player one. They come, I don't know. It was kind of funny, but yeah, it was probably that. It was probably that that kind of got me like competitive nature, and so I could reference that where it was like, okay, this is me doing this, and so like if I lose, it's my fault. Like I can't, like it's not like, oh man, my wing sucked. He missed the shot, and it was like, oh, this dude had 4 turnovers. I was like, it wasn't me. We lost, but it wasn't my fault. All right, there's no one else to punt it off on, and I don't know. I kind of like that feeling. It was like.
At what point in time did you, start to take it, I'll use the term serious, if you will.
Yeah.
At what point in time did it get serious for you to, and was that just kind of, was that because of, hey, this is thing and it's fun, or was this, was there more thought into that?
Yeah. I mean, so after that competition that I did, I mean, I didn't just it wasn't just like, bam, I'm going to do everything that this dude said. And, he was super nice about it. He opened the book up, you know what I mean? Into just a rabbit hole of information. But he lived super far away, so and, I didn't have him as a reference all the time.
Sure.
So I probably bugged the heck out of him that day. But after that, it was probably 3 months later, probably. It was the very first time CrossFit did what was called, it's called the Open now.
Yeah.
It was the very first time they did it. Before that, you could just sign up and show up at these different things called sectionals, but they wanted to make it a global scale. So they made it all online. You could film yourself and submit your score, and they would review it and all this stuff. And so I did that with the guy I was working out with, and I ended up in I think they took 60, I believe. They cut it down later years, But I think they took 60 that year, and I think I placed 36th.
Wow.
And like which is probably like 5 states or something like that.
Sure.
Over the course of like 5 workouts. And so it was just like, it was kind of like mind-boggling because, you're looking at the internet and trying to compare yourself to these people that are good.
Right.
And like, these are the people that are like in 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th in the region.
Right.
And you're down here at 36th. And, the guy I was working out was like, let's go. And I was like, no. Like, that's a terrible idea, dude. What do you mean? I was like, look, like Phil, they only take 3 people.
Right.
They're not taking 36 people,
right.
So after that point. And so to me, there wasn't a reason to go up there and just like, because, I come in 36, like the chances of me getting top 3 are literally 0
right.
at this point, And so I didn't even want to go. And, he offered to pay for it, drive me up there and stay with me and get me through the weekend. And so, like, reluctant, it was honestly reluctantly. I just did it for him that first year. But we decided to do it. And then it was after, I think the first event, it was like, it's a mile or 1,000-meter run, 30 handstand push-ups, and then 1,000-meter row. And I remember sitting down on the rower with Nick Uranker, like within a second of each other, and rowing like the fastest 1,000-meter, and he beat me by like probably 0.5 seconds or something ridiculous.
Wow.
But and I remember the announcer just like behind us, like going back and forth, and me feeling like I was gonna die.
Right.
And like actually die. Like I thought I was gonna, like, my heart had never felt like that. Okay, like I know, like I competed before,
right.
like the local thing, but like there's a different thing when it's like you're in an arena. There's probably like 3,000 or 4,000 people there. The announcer's on the microphone.
Oh yeah.
Just like screaming your name back and forth, letting you know where those other dude's at.
Right.
And it's just like, I might actually die. And I remember falling over, and I think I got 6 in that workout. And as the weekend progressed, I ended up in 8th place. And that was kind of like when it was like the light bulb kind of went on. I was like, okay, maybe, like I got 8th, and then like,
right.
I've only been doing this for like 8 months. And these dudes have been like, top 3 had probably been doing it for 2 or 3 years. Or it had, a little more athletic background than me. But after that competition of me getting 8th, kind of realized like, whoa, okay, maybe if I ate the way this dude said and like actually tried a little more, something might happen. And so I did. But I never got top 3, so.
Right. So let's unpack a couple of those things that are of interest to me. You had kind of the interest. You weighed yourself against your competitive landscape, so to speak. You're like 36. You're like, hey, that's not bad for a guy from a small pond area. I'm sure you're like, hey, guy a little from this, West Virginia, Kentucky area, not too shabby.
I had no idea what I was capable of. First of all, and like just that alone, I was like, man, when there's people like beside me willing to die before they let me win, you can do a lot more than you think you can. But
so that's why I was
definitely paid dividends later on.
And that's why I was curious, and just because I draw so many parallels in my mind to other experiences that I've had. Do you feel like that was a difference when you got there? Like you didn't even realize, like, well, I didn't know people rode this hard, or you know what I mean? Like you different. You're inspired by the people around you. Not you're like, if he can do it, I can. But it's just they're going faster, and so you're just like, I'm gonna go and try and keep up. Do you feel like that was a big player to why you did so much better in that competition arena?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Just because, I mean, if you're by yourself, or even if you're like, because I worked out with Phil, and like at the beginning I just wanted to beat him,
Sure, right.
And then it finally happened, and then like just beating him was enough,
right?
But then you get up there and like, no offense, Phil, but they were better than Phil.
Right.
And it's just one of those things like, man, like this dude's rowing, and I didn't know that I was capable of that. You know what I mean? Like, because I'd never, like, I mean, I went hard, but like it hurts. And so like if you're by yourself or you're just like with one other person, it's really easy to stop or slow down, or not find out what you're made out of or capable of, but you can apply that anywhere in your life, really.
And that's one of the things that I certainly do when I'm coaching people, whether it's I have people directly working for me, or they're like other teams, or just even just individual like leadership coaching, is that I do find that people, you can be a victim of even your own self-worth. You can be in your self assessment is so dictated by the company that you keep, right?
Right.
So if you spoiler alert, if you surround yourself with crappy people,
Indeed.
your perception, you might think, oh, I'm the
Right.
king, but you're king of the losers.
Yeah.
And you know that. And you realistically know that. It's just like,
Yeah.
oh, like you walked into that, going back to the earlier experience, like you're cock of the walk here when you're like, it's 180 people.
Right,
and you
right.
like walk in like, I'm pretty
Sheesh.
big stuff. And you walk in like, oh my gosh.
Yep.
Like, I didn't know they made people that big. I didn't know you were allowed to jump that high.
Right.
I could score that many points in a game and that type of thing. But I would say too, like just looking at these, you've kind of paralleled actually a few different very similar events in your life, but it's where you have this one certain perception and your horizons are opened, like for a higher level of competition or just generally bigger people in that area. But that allows you to open up your aperture and understand a little bit more about what you're even capable of. Right on that stage, you could have. Some people would have been like, nope, like I do not belong here. I'm here for my medal, my free swag.
Yeah.
I'm going to enjoy the experience. I'm going to enjoy the day and go home. But then there are, and what you could have done, right? And you could have went back to your small pond and still been beating Phil in the garage and felt good about yourself or what have you, right?
True.
Or you can take kind of these challenges or these, when we face adversity and look at it as an opportunity to like really get after it and say, all right, well, let's see what I'm made of. And what's been consistent for me is that the people who possess that attitude of let's dance or let's go.
Yeah.
Not expecting to win, but it's like they'll think like, we can fight. One of us is getting messed up, but we're going to fight. But those people, even if they don't come out on the top and win the podium, like you said, but you walk away victorious because you came out of there your whole different mind in terms of what you're capable of or what you could do if you just merely applied yourself like that. It's like, wait a minute, maybe I should start eating better, maybe I should start doing these things more serious. I just see so many different parallels when in business.
Talking with a friend, and I think this is going to sound very similar, but it's not so much winning to me, it was not losing.
Sure.
And it sounds like the same thing.
It's not.
Right? I don't want to lose.
Right.
Or I want to win. But it seems, the more I see it, it's like the people who don't want to lose, they'll do whatever it takes.
Right.
So when I went home, I was like, man, I don't want to lose again.
Right.
So I'm going to do this, and this every single day so I don't lose because that was terrible. And the people that want to win just kind of show up and they're like, okay, I'm going to do the best I can. Hopefully I win. But I don't think it transfers like later on or as well.
Well, I think if I look at that, I do agree with that from a leadership perspective, and I think you have to have both. And I look at one is you're looking at what's the ceiling of what I can achieve, and the other is what's the floor of what I'm willing to accept. And I think those are both very important things. So I look at business, as I progress up through my business career and stuff like that, my floor has to raise.
Right.
Otherwise, my ceiling can never be. Because if you look at I know you're a math guy, or if you look at just from statistics and you're trying to look at and be able to do predictability. So I'm big into machine learning and data science, stuff like that. Predictability. The more variance you have in all your data pods, it's less predictable, right? It could be here, or it could be here.
Right, makes sense.
But if you can say I know I can raise my floor, and at the same time I can raise my ceiling, but the more I can consistently go in here, then the more predictable and the more I'm going to continue to trend up. And I think a great point recently is someone in your field, and that is Chandler Smith. And so I don't know if you knew this or not, but so Chandler Smith won for the guys, but he didn't win a single event.
No, I didn't think he got second.
No, the highest he ever played was third, but he consistently placed there.
Right.
And so the reason I bring this up, right, is that at the end of the day,
he was the best.
He was the best because he was
third
he was consistently the best. And I think this is what too, when I talk about stuff in my daily dose today or start where you are stuff, it's about that consistency and being there. You might not win the deal that day. But if you're consistently out there and getting 2 to 3 or whatever consistently,
right. Yeah, he wasn't
you
first place after.
Yeah,
day
you
one,
might not ever get the most deals or close the most money in a given day. But if you're consistent all the time, you will win over the long haul because not only does it math doesn't make out correctly, right? But I think you can even you can translate this to business or physical activity or what have you. But being consistent is so much more key than having kind of these wild swings and having really great days and having really terrible days, because you'll grow. Like, just, if you watch your diet, I just want to say, like, you can't out-train a bad diet, right? I'm a living example of that. But you can't out-train a bad diet.
I mean, you can, right? Well, you just don't stop to eat, right?
That fixes the diet problem.
Oh, true. Fair enough.
That fixes the diet problem. But, but at the same time, like, it doesn't matter if I, stuck to my macros great today or, my things, but then I blow it like 3 days, 3 out of 7. I did a podcast about that, like about just if you're successful, like this much, if you reached 1/1,000,000th of this type of thing, this percentage-based system.
Oh yeah, if you're gonna fail 30% of the time,
right? Exactly.
Nobody's gonna employ you. Like
exactly,
right. Returning a 30% fail rate,
right? If you have a 30% fail rate, like at any point in time, do you feel that it's successful? But it's so I say that. But I realize that. This ability to, when you get there, is coming back to this point about raising the floor of what you're willing to accept. I think it's important to have a balance of those things and to be able to say, you know what, I'm going to do at least this, and then also to be able to say, you know what, but I'm capable of X, Y, Z. And I think both things are important. One's survival and the other's aspirational. And I think those two blend the things is what your motivation is.
I dig it.
To me. I think you're out of time.
I'm just a normal person, though. Feels good.
No, I think you're extraordinary.
Yeah.
But I mean, certainly, like I think but I think you are a rare. Obviously, just the whole combination of what you do and stuff like that just puts you in a rare percentage of overall people. Right? It's like a marathon runner. We're less than 1% of the world, right? Like,
I mean, most people are in some form or fashion in that small percentage of something.
Right, of something, right? Exactly, right? And they can be, and they certainly.
Absolutely.
And look, like I ran multiple marathons. I mean, you there's nothing super extraordinary about like me from a physical aspect. You know what I mean?
Right.
But what it boiled down to was though that I was willing to put in the time and the training and stuff to get there, right? So could a lot more.
Something I've never done.
Sure, right.
2 miles off.
Yeah.
Through the woods.
Yeah.
That was the end of the race. I didn't quit or anything. I was just the end of the race.
I gotta say that for another
2 miles. I'm all right. I'm all right.
Well, I think we're good say it's the first 26 miles are easy. It's the last 0.2 that kills you in the marathon, right?
Hey everybody, I hope you enjoyed this first part of the interview with Ger Sasser. If you liked what you heard and you'd like to hear more, including the second part of this interview, then be sure to follow us on Facebook or Instagram or subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can find all this information plus other things that we've done with Start Where You Are at swya.today or startwhereyouare.today. You'll find our website, you'll find blogs and videos and other things there. Thanks.